Welcome, Beverley. Welcome, Beverley.
Hi, everybody. Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. Wonderful.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
fantastic. Right, so let me tell you a bit about the book. Black women have always led with strength and vision, and too often with the heavy weight of silence and sacrifice. In Rest, Rise, Reclaim, Beverley A. Powell shares her extraordinary journey from a childhood in Lancashire, rooted in Jamaican heritage, through a groundbreaking career in policing, prisons, and coaching. With honesty and courage, she reveals what it means to navigate leadership while facing racism, imposter syndrome, and the relentless superwoman expectations placed on Black women. But this is more than a memoir, it is a call to liberation, celebrating Black joy, creativity, and community. Powell introduces the L.I.F.T model: leadership, identity, fulfillment, and togetherness as a framework for leading with authenticity, rest, and unapologetic superpower. This is a book for every Black woman who has ever been told she must endure, and for those ready to rise, reclaim, and lead on their own terms. This book is for the Black women who lead and the foremothers who lit the path for us. Thank you so much, Beverley. Thank you. And welcome, everyone. Right, I'm going to get Beverley on spotlight because, Beverley, we're going to go straight in, and I would like you to do your first reading. Okay, so your first book reading, just spotlight you. Okay, so Beverley, could we have a reading from your book, please?
A reading. I didn't expect that. I didn't
Yes,
expect that.
all authors, listen, all authors must read from their book.
Right. So what is it that you would like me to read or
You
which
select
chapter?
whatever you've prepared to read.
Okay, I'm going to talk about shades of trouble and unrest. So,
Okay.
growing up as a Black teenager in the northwest of England during the 70s and 80s was a time of immense turmoil and tension. The riots that erupted involving Black youths was a response to the pervasive racial discrimination and harassment we face daily. The notorious SUS laws allowed police to stop and search Black individuals based on mere suspicion, leading to countless humiliating encounters that fueled anger and resentment within our community. The tension between Black communities and the authorities was palpable, with the constant fear of being unjustly targeted. For a teenage Black girl like me, the impact was profound. But music played a pivotal role in providing solace and fostering a sense of solidarity during these challenging times. The reggae anthem Police and Thieves by Junior Mervyn resonated deeply with me as it echoed our frustrations and defiance. The music scene, particularly the rise of Northern Soul and Jazz Funk, became a sanctuary where the lines of us and them blurred and unity thrived. Northern Soul, a genre rooted in Black American soul music, brought together Black and white Northerners in a shared appreciation of its infectious rhythms and dance culture. Every weekend, I will travel to the Mecca of the Northwest for music: Wigan Casino, the Wigan Pier, and the jazz funk clubs, Casinelli's, where dancing was my weekly escape. I would dance my weekends away, to the sounds of jazz, funk, and soul. The experience was not just about the music, it was a form of restorative healing. It provided a sense of belonging and connection that through music transcended racial boundaries. Lifelong friendships were forged on those dance floors, friendships that have endured despite my relocation from the northwest to the north of England. And throughout my career, I've come to understand that white supremacy is not confined to overt ideology. It is embedded deep within systems and structures, and everyday assumptions that shape our professional worlds. It seeps into policy, culture, and expectations, often unnoticed by those who benefit from its design. But for Black women, its presence is keenly felt. I'm going to stop there.
That, Beverly, that is wonderful. What a great introduction. This book, oh my gosh, there is so much depth in this book. But what I loved about that reading, Beverly, is the part that I know when we've been developing the book, when we've talked about the music, the warmth, and about the real Northern culture. Beverly, why was it important to emphasize your northern culture because you're a black woman and you're from Jamaican descent. So why is it important to talk about coming from the north?
I felt that having a focus on coming from the north was important for me because as part of my research and other research, academic research, prior to writing the book, what I have seen is some really good Black woman authors from across the waters in America and south of Birmingham. But I hadn't really come across any book that really focused on the Black woman from the north of England, actually
Hmm.
from Lancashire. And that is really powerful for me because over the years, there has been times which I've identified in the book, which is addresses aspects of my identity, where when I was undertaking academic study in places such as Bath, as people would say, I would say Bath
Oh, yeah.
because of where I come from, or Durham, people would find it amusing because of my accent. And there was a time many years ago having spoken to my academic supervisor, I was seriously contemplating changing my accent to be taken seriously. And therefore, I felt it was important to incorporate the real identity aspect and where my northern roots came from, even though if we go back further, clearly in the book, it articulates that I originated from Jamaica of heritage and then from Lancashire. So Lancashire played a key part, and of course, the music over the years, and as a child of the 60s and experiencing the race riots, my education, there was always some music that was from Manchester or from Liverpool. Like if anybody here can remember the group from Liverpool called The Real Thing, who
Yes.
who sung Can You Feel the Force?
Hmm.
And there was a young black group from Manchester. I can't remember their name now. So there was lots of really pivotal black music that really impacted me as I grew up as a child and that solidarity. And I never really saw that in a book. And further to that, in part of developing this book, I came across the work by Toni Morrison, and Morrison did articulate if there's a book that you haven't read or
Yeah.
see or seen or heard, you must write it.
Wonderful,
And
Beverly.
authors such as Toni Morrison spurred me on to think, well, actually, yes, I haven't seen that. It's time for me to write. And there's something powerful about shifting your narrative. There are many times where Black women, or certainly myself, has been made to fit into a certain narrative or labeling.
Yes.
And what I feel by writing this book, it has shaped my narrative. I've shifted my narrative. It's my lived experience. And again, aligning to, and I make reference to, um, is it Ngozi Adichie, Chimamanda Adichie, who talks about the danger of the single story.
Mm.
And what I'm highlighting here is, as a Black woman of Caribbean heritage, living in Lancashire, now living in Yorkshire, I am multifaceted. And there is often a danger, particularly in systems where I have worked, where people, women, Black women, can be labelled, and one size does not fit all. So I suppose when I talk about that and join up those dots, that's one of the rationales for the start of writing this book. And there's always been something that I've wanted to do. And particularly now, as I have retired from work and put in my hours and hours and years of working in the police, the prison, the NHS, and working independently, I felt it was right. And I often thought about legacy and what does legacy mean for me, and what would I like to leave for others. And I felt a book is apt, and it encapsulates my leadership journey, the highs, the lows, the laughters, the joy, everything. So this is not a book about negativity. I haven't written the book from a deficit model. It is balanced. And that's
Absolutely.
just encapsulates there what I'm sharing with you about the music.
So, Beverly, I'm going to put you on the spot again. I've chosen the page because what we love about this book, what I love about this book, is that whilst you have lots of theoretical knowledge to share, lots of corporate management and leadership knowledge, you have also shared of yourself in this book. So I would like to have a reading. And we had questions as well, didn't we, from the editors saying, why have you included this part of your story? What I would like you to read is page 38 and maybe 39 as well, just to give a snippet of your personal experience. Let's have a quick look if I've got the right page.
Well, what I have here for my page
Yeah,
38, because I have the author's copy.
you've got the new copy. Yes, go on then. If you
So
want.
I'm going to, if I may, and
Yes,
that's okay with everybody, I'm going to refer to an element in the book called Double the Struggle.
yes,
Growing up on a council estate, I quickly learned that opportunities were not handed to you on a silver platter. There was no old money to rely on. Old money referring to wealth that has been inherited over generations rather than earned within a single lifetime. Families with old money often have a long history of wealth and social status, and their assets are passed down through the family line. This kind of wealth can provide a significant social and economic advantages. And for me, there was no old money that could cushion me from a grandmother or a grandfather. If I wanted to go straight from school to university, granddad and grandmother were busy building family foundations in Lancashire for us to support my mother and father as the next generation arrived to work in Britain and helped to build up the country after World War II. And many significant sacrifices were made by the Caribbean community with a promise of being supported by the motherland as our relatives and now ancestors arrived in ships such as the Empire Windrush. So I'm going to stop there because the focus here is around double the struggle. And what I was told by my mother and father, and I know through my own research over the years on various areas of race identity, was that my mother and father told us that whatever we did, we had to work twice as hard as our white counterparts. And if we went to school, we had to make sure we were smarter than anybody else, just as I was informed, just to be treated the same. So unfortunately, at that young age, that was sort of the lens from where I was raised. And that was around my mother and father protecting me but I knew that life was very unequal from day one, just by being told whatever I do, I've got to be twice as good to be treated the same, which to my mind did not seem right. But I
No,
listened, and that got me out of a lot of trouble by doing that. But it created unnecessary strain, stress, I suppose, on a young child's shoulders, or my brother and sister as well, as they equally were told the same. And we was all told by no uncertain terms. I can see my mother pointing to all three of us. We will have a job. You will be educated. You will do well, and you won't put shame on the family
no.
because we haven't come from one end of the world to the other to be
Mm.
shamed. And I do know that to be true for many of my black and brown friends, that they were reminded of where their family had come from and the level of expectation. I'll pause there.
Absolutely wonderful, Beverly. Beverly, I know that when we worked together, we spent hours just talking and reasoning and contemplating and examining this journey of the Black woman, in especially the Black woman in leadership. Beverly, you've touched on why you wrote the book, but who is this book for? Because it's a book for Black women who lead, but we also want other people to read it too. So, can you elaborate more on who this book is for and why people should read it?
Yes, of course. To my mind, I started to write the book with a centering the Black woman and leadership. However, due to my own multifaceted leadership journey over the years, I felt this book is multifaceted. It's a multifaceted narrative, and one that, whilst it honors my identity, it also incorporates leadership and well-being and lived experience, and therefore I think it's a book which is useful for the youth, for the Black young youth who are searching for a career, undecided, because my career was not a linear career for the reasons I've just shared from an excerpt from this book. It's also a book which could be used by our non-Black coaches who are coaching somebody outside of their own protected characteristic. It's also a book which I've incorporated case studies and scenarios, which is useful for the manager. It's also a book which is useful for the academic, actually, because I've incorporated the theoretical elements of that and also historical context as well. So I've used theory and frameworks. So many people have said to me, is it a storybook? Well, actually, in a sense, it is, but it's rich because of the layers of complexity, and it's multifaceted, and therefore it's a book that can be accessed and used and can be of use to many people and to our, not forgetting our allies. So I
Okay.
think this is a book which is useful for our allies as well.
Okay. So, Beverly, we've talked a lot about the book. Let's find out some more about you. So, you're in your time of retirement, but I want to know, and I'm sure everyone wants to know, well, who is Beverly Powell? Why should we read this book? Is this somebody who's just, I don't know, sat there, not done anything with their life, and then has decided to just create a book? So, Beverly, firstly, let's touch on your early career and why you chose to do the work that you did initially.
Um, I believe my early career, I always wanted to join the police service. When I joined the police service early back in the 90s, at that time, there was a height restriction. You had to
Okay.
be a minimum of, I believe it was 5'7" as a woman and
Okay.
5'4".
Okay.
I didn't make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I joined the police service and I joined as police staff.
Right.
It was only years later, and again, I refer to some of these legalities in the book. And it's only certainly Greater Manchester Police, which is where I worked for 14 years. Um, those laws, I think it was the same for all of the forces, changed. However, it was a really good grounding for me to join the police service. And when I look back on that particular career, every 2 years I seem to have been promoted to the
Okay.
point where I worked in central Manchester, and I managed a group of 16 traffic staff, and
Mm-hmm.
I reported into the police traffic inspector. And we had to know, I know in London you have, the taxi drivers call it the knowledge. Well, we had a map, and every part of Manchester was split into areas, and I had to know everyone. And I'd have the police radio. We'd shout out the shifts. We'd do the shifts. We'd report. It's very regimented, and I was
Yeah.
there. But all along, I had a coach. So I had a chief superintendent, white woman, who was really good as a coach.
So, Beverly, exactly what did you do? I know you're touching on what you had. So, what was that initial role? So, you couldn't become a police officer.
Yeah.
So, you were in what you
So I
were.
started at the time, it was a traffic warden, actually. I started my early
Ah,
career as a traffic warden. It's not the traffic wardens that we see now. The traffic wardens were appointed directly to the police. They had
yeah.
nothing to do with the council, and they had
Mhm.
laws, and we had to write reports. We'd go to court, all those things. So you were directly appointed by the police service. After
Okay.
2 years, I came out of that, and I worked at the police headquarters in a department called Community Affairs. And
Hmm.
that involved working across all of the Greater Manchester conurbation and
Hmm.
looking at community tensions at that time. And
Mm.
during that time was when we had the untimely murder of Stephen Lawrence.
Yes.
And a report and recommendations came out and impacted all of the forces. And the Greater Manchester Police needed something to happen. And there was rumblings from lots of black and brown rank and file police staff and police officers in terms of promotion. There was no chief superintendent who was black or brown or woman to that effect, and a lot of other things. So we formed our first community, which is we called it the Black and Asian Police Association. And
Okay.
that was a pivotal point for my career, where I would travel down to the Met.
Hmm.
I worked internationally at an international leadership conference where two representatives from every force went to Atlanta, Georgia, in America on an international leadership program. And we interconnected with all other black and brown officers, rank and file, globally. So we met them all. So it then became policy, strategy, challenging the command team. We worked directly with all of the command team to shape policy and training. And I took a career break from the service and qualified as a teacher, and
Okay.
went back as part of my training into a police training school. Don't know if anyone remembers the time where we had the an officer who went in undercover called the secret policeman.
Yes.
So I chose to go into that police training school and deliver 6 weeks to police students, probationers on equality, diversity, and inclusion. And I was assessed. So I qualified as a teacher, did my teacher training in a training school. So I was an educator, went back. So there's lots of work there in terms of strategic work and work on behalf of. But there was challenges because in the Manchester area, there's lots of tension in Rochdale, in Oldham,
Okay.
with our brown community colleagues, our Muslim colleagues in Moss Side, as it was called at that time. So there's lots, so we're straddling community, policy, and incorporating that, which is why at that time I was funded by the police service to undertake criminology, psychology as part of my
To
first degree.
study it, to
To
study it.
study it, to study
Brilliant.
it
Brilliant.
and qualify. child psychology, criminology, sociology, and that supported my work to
So
be able to
Beverly,
drive through the changes.
in that role, what would you say? I'm going to ask you two parts. What was the most satisfying part of that work that you did in policing in in that time?
We managed to recruit a number of black and brown um, probationers, police officers. We went into the community and we encouraged and we was able to improve the rates of black and brown police officers and police women, police staff during my time there and retain them during that time. So not just me, the
Yeah.
Black and Asian Police Association, particularly delighted with that. We also had the appointment of senior black officer as well. So we
Excellent.
helped to steer, challenge, and reshape and review and reshape recruitment policies. Where I also did a spell working in the assessment centre to
Mm.
assess white police inspectors going up to chief inspector. So I had the psychology and
Yes.
psychometric assessments in there as well. So it has some insight. So those are the things that I can remember. There's lots,
Yeah.
but those are key which spring to mind as you ask me that
Mm.
question.
And what was the greatest struggle in that role?
When the Macpherson report came out and there was a lack of understanding
It was
from
after Stephen Lawrence died.
after Stephen Lawrence died, then we had the Macpherson report and all forces had to adhere to that. But what unfortunately a lot of the police officers could not understand and was hanging on to the word institutional racism. They couldn't
Mm.
understand the word institutional racism. They took it personally when it was
Okay.
about institution. So there was a whole education that was uncovered and that was required and needed. So challenging against the backdrop of the Macpherson was really difficult and a time where we really had to hold firm, stand our ground, be resilient.
Yeah.
And we was getting it from the community,
Mm.
called Babylon because we was there working for us. They would call it Babylon. And
Yeah.
yet we was getting it
So you were getting
within
it
the police
from the
service.
black community.
Yes, yes.
And so for you as an individual, you were within the institution. And I'm assuming now, I say this with tongue in cheek, really. It was easy for you to do this work within the institution. And then you also came under um, challenge from the community. I said easy, it clearly wasn't easy. How did you, as an individual, as a woman,
Bob,
navigate all of that? The fact that you're within an institution that clearly it wouldn't have been easy to implement, um, implement the actions from these reports. And then again, you also had the backlash from the community. So just give us a flavor of what that was like for you as a woman leader.
Well, it goes without saying, with the backdrop, it was very challenging, very difficult. However, within my book, I have created a framework. I call it the L.I.F.T framework.
Yeah.
And one of those, the T, is about togetherness. And what I found throughout my career is community is everything. So the Black
Yes.
and Asian Police Association were not just an association to drive through policy and strategy,
Mhm.
but it was about supporting one another
Okay.
as a community,
Okay.
internally supporting one another, inside
Mm.
and outside of work. The
Mm.
importance of community was everything. And that was what sustained a lot of our Black and Brown file staff officers at that time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So you move on. You've worked in the NHS, you're a teacher, you're a coach, and now you're in this phase of retirement from, I suppose, the formal working life. So your book title is Rest, Rise, Reclaim. So is this what you're doing now? Are you resting? Are you rising? And what are you reclaiming?
It's a good question. And throughout the writing of this book, the title came last when I sat back and reflected over the pages what this is about. I'm in a season of reclaiming. And
Yes.
I say reclaiming because I'm in a season of reclaiming myself over the years as a leader, as an influencer, as a manager, as an older sister,
Mm,
as somebody who's been active as a public governor in systems. This is about reclaiming my energy, my time, centering me, having boundaries,
mm,
saying no without thinking otherwise. And actually, I refer in the book to Audre Lorde, the Black
yes.
feminist, who talks about self-care. And it's an act of political resistance, really, for the Black woman
Mm,
to write and affirm and honor her own emotions and reclaim herself. And Audre Lorde talks about an act of political warfare. So if we want to call it that and say it's an act of political warfare, but reclaim, I'm
yes.
in a season of reclaiming myself with all the bits and parts that I have given away through the system. I am reclaiming that back, and I'm doing that by enjoying writing this book, which has
Yes.
been a project I've thought about for many years. So I found great joy, relief, liberation,
Wonderful.
reparation, all those things in reclaiming my narrative.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Beverly. Wonderful. Okay, so you, the Superwoman, because when you first started writing, the title was very much centered around burning the Superwoman cape. So, Beverly, are you suggesting Black women are not superwomen?
Very
Oh
provocative
my Lord.
question.
No.
That was born actually. I was invited to deliver a workshop at an NHS conference in London 2 or 3 years ago. And that was around aspects of leadership. And part of my research was that 95% of the Black professional women in that space felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
So I decided to do some research on the notion of imposter syndrome. And the founders of that, two white American researchers, I think Clance and Imes, who
Mm,
pulled together the imposter syndrome. And I have been quite critical of that from the lens of the Black woman.
mm,
And it's from what I've read from Black American Black women authors, lots have been damning around the notion of the imposter syndrome. However, in my book, what I do say in my lens is, who am I to say to a Black woman if she feels that she's suffering from the imposter syndrome to say she isn't
mm,
hasn't got the impulse. If she feels that, then I am going to go with that. It's not my ministry to tell anybody they haven't got what they feel they have. However, I'm
mm,
quite critical in the book. You will see I'll delve into why I'm critical of that notion of the imposter syndrome. So it was born from that and wanted to understand that.
mm,
And I also talk about the Superwoman cape, particularly when I think of my lens mentioned being
mm.
the older of three,
Yes.
being a latchkey kid. I don't know if anybody's on this line who remembers being a latchkey kid.
Yes.
So on the Mondays, the rice and peas from the Sunday, and I had to rush home from school and make sure the rice and peas and things was ready for my brother and sister to come home, take off the uniform, do the homework. We all
Yes.
had chores to do, but the blessings of these chores, or I was in my book, I said I mentioned I was a lieutenant. I mentioned that
Hmm.
with no shade. I was a lieutenant. My mother was the captain. Father wasn't around then at that time, and I was a lieutenant. So, in effect, yeah, I was a superwoman. And so I have made the choice and the decision to burn the superwoman cape. I'm not the superwoman. I'm not the alpha female, I am in a season of my soft life. And that is what I want to enjoy. I'm in my soft life. And that means burning the Superwoman cape, being more boundaried with work, and centering me instead of giving my power away. And again, in the book, I talk about giving my power away over the years. I was a yes person. If the boss wanted something, I would do it. And I was very quickly known in lots of organizations I worked in. Beverly's a can-do person. Give it to Beverly, she can do. She's a can-do person. And I did that. So
for
there was
many
something
years.
in that for me about probably not recognizing my own self-worth or seeking
Mm,
validity
yes.
from others and not from myself.
Mm,
That cape has been burnt. Those days are over. So that
brilliant.
is where the Superwoman, how it was born, that cape, and the reason why my original title, and it's mentioned in the book about burning the Superwoman cape. No more, not for me. The
Beautiful.
hustle culture is still on for a lot of people, a lot of black women, but I'm not hustling no more.
No. And the thing is, because I want to touch on the fact that you also are a key player when it comes to the menopause and black women. But it's kind of like what I understand with your book, and I don't mind if you correct me. What we want is that we're learning this as we get older, as we're
Mm.
approaching 60, in our 60s. And then, for some women, that is the time of reclamation of ourselves. However, we want that women in their 30s reach that place way before we did. I think that's your message, isn't it, Beverly? So how can that happen for a younger woman? Is it possible? Or do they have to go through the same journey and the same struggles that we have before they can reach that place?
I believe the choice is with all of us, each one of us individually, and we can choose to have the hustle culture or
Hmm.
choose not to.
Hmm.
My mother had the hustle culture and had to have the hustle culture. For me, she paved the way for me. And
Yeah,
for my niece, she won't need to hustle as I did because
yeah,
we have paved the way for my niece and others. So I think it waters down and the choices are far better. And my niece is of dual heritage, so she
yeah.
will have a different experience and a different lens. So I
Then
think life changes, life can change, choices are different, experiences are different. And I think that's what makes the world rich
yes.
and makes the richness for the woman. And there's lots of things we're still learning. My mother didn't tell me about the menopause. All I know is we would be sat in the living room and all of a sudden I'd look at my mother and she was dripping in sweat and
Hmm.
open the window, close the door,
Yes.
and all those things. And we did not understand it or the shifts in mood. But,
Yes.
my mother was doing all that on the back of being the superwoman.
Mm, mm.
And those are the things where we now are equipped and armed with some of that information, and we have the choice and we can research things.
So again, back to the book. This book is for people of all ages, but it's for women of all ages. It's a manifesto. We know it's a manifesto to enable women, particularly Black women, to learn from Beverly's experience, learn from Beverly's knowledge, so that they don't have to wait till they're 60 before they can give themselves a break, before they can take care of themselves. Have I got that right, Beverly?
Yes, yes, you put that together beautifully. Thank you. Yes, it's there if somebody chooses, but it's always good to constantly learn. I'm in this era, as I've mentioned, of reclaiming, but it
Yeah,
doesn't mean I've stopped learning. So it will be
absolutely
useful
not.
for anybody to look at that book for the reasons I've highlighted: men, women, allies, coaches, managers, researchers. There's something in there for everybody because it's got the Lancashire twang to it as well. So it's a different lens in this particular book.
Absolutely. What I'm going to do now, Beverly, thank you, is I'm going to read some of the comments to you from in the chat, but we're going to open up the conversation for some questions and answers for
Oh
Beverly.
gosh, I hope I can answer some of the
Beverly,
questions.
they have, or you maybe comment, but we have a number of comments in the chat that I think I ought to just highlight for you. But if you do want to, make a comment, ask a question of Beverly or of myself, then feel free to do so. Just either raise the emoji hand or um, raise your hand. Right, Beverly, we've got some comments in the chat. So we have from Yvonne Gale, very interesting lady, Beverly. You are an inspiration to not only the Black woman, but to the wider women in leadership. Thank you for sharing the expertise of your book. Wishing you many blessings and success on your continued journey. Then we have Navin Fulchan, but he's here and he's raising his hand, so I'm sure he'll raise it. And his question, he said, and the elephant in the room is, okay, so we get back to that. Hashana Knight, Beverly, congratulations on your book. This is a great achievement. I wish you every success. And then we have Marcia Orr. Congratulations, Beverly. Many aspects of your lived experience resonates with me. Excuse me. Then we had Ashana Knight. Thank you, but she's had to go. But she said it's been fabulous. Yvonne Gale, very true. Simone Smart, a real accomplishment, Beverly. This will bless many. We've got a lot of comments in the group. By the way, we are sharing a link, but the book will be officially released on, I think it's Monday, the 1st of December. It will be
Marcia, can I just cut in there? You've got Rashid with his hand. I don't know if you've noticed it.
I have, but yeah, I'm going to go to the people with the hands up shortly. Yes, thank you, Rashid. Yes, I've had a couple with the hand up, so I am coming to you, Rashid. So yeah, the book will be released on Monday that you'll be able to buy. I think Navin put his hand up. Navin, you did raise your hand. He raised his physical hand earlier.
Okay.
I'm going to come to you, Rashid, but don't worry, I'm not going to miss you because I really want to hear what you've got to say. Okay. So, Navin, just unmute yourself. Let's hear what you've got to say. I think you're muted at the moment, Navin. Let me try and see if you can unmute.
Unmute now.
There you are.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting perspective and very interesting, very inspirational talk. What I would like to take a little question for you is about, you say the police, when the Macpherson report was released in 1999, they weren't clear, they didn't understand the concept of institutional racism. I published a book last October, and a lot of my work was about racism in the NHS and the wider society. I just wanted to know if you clarify a bit, why did the police did not understand the issue with institutional racism? It's quite simple as far as I can understand it. What was the
Yeah.
difficulty from them?
Well, firstly, the Macpherson was 1997. I don't think it was 1999.
99.
It was 1997 that was released. I can't really answer why police officers didn't understand that. There was diversity training. I wasn't involved in the training, so I'm not aware of the content, but I do know that there was lots of upset around the rank and file, and they just chose to pull out those two words from a lengthy document with about 70, 80 recommendations in there. But unfortunately, I'm unable to understand that. I understood it. The Black and Asian Police Association understood it. but unfortunately, the majority of officers didn't understand it. I'm absolutely sure after all these years and with the review of diversity training or whatever other interventions that force has or other forces, they will know. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm unable to answer that. I don't
Before
know why.
then, yeah. Naveen, any comeback on that?
Um, I mean, from my study of reading about anti-racism for the last 20 odd years, as is the issue about not understanding is a form of denial.
Mm-hmm.
So if you deny it, then you don't need to study it because at the end of the day, it's about them. I mean, the other issue is institutional racism cannot exist if individual people are not.
I'm not racist.
I mean, individual institutions don't come from the sky. People develop institutions. And
Mm.
that's a group of people get together and develop a policy or a system of working, and everybody carries through. The issue here is about you don't have to be an openly racist person to carry the instruction. You just carry it, and knowing full well that the disproportionate impact is on Black, Asian community, etc. They're disproportionately arrested and stopped and searched and imprisoned and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So basically, in a sense, if somebody says they're not understanding it, my view is they're complicit with it because they're not challenging it. They're
Mm.
part of the problem. And
Mm.
unfortunately, we have another report in 2021. After so many years of Macpherson report, there's not been much progress. That what we call the Deeney report, I think the Casey report, which I wrote about in my book, which actually says not much progress has been made. But I understand your frustration from it. It's just that another clarification from my perspective I mean, if people want to learn, they can learn. And then people don't want to learn, they don't want to learn. Because learning can be quite painful, actually.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
you're
know, it
absolutely right. And
frighten you out, and then you say, "Oh, I didn't know that. Is that me they're talking about?" So you back away.
yeah, you're quite right. And also, additional to that, and just to help with my response to your question there, I was also appointed into the prison service as a strategic leader after the untimely murder of the Muslim teenager Zaid Mubarak.
Yeah, Mubarak.
Again,
Yeah.
in that report, you will see that that term was referred to, but there I had more of a strategic handle on that. And what I did was to implement an intervention with the board. I was a member of the board or senior management team at the time in that category B prison, and to deliver training to the senior management team who was all appointed around certain parts of the prison service. The outcome of that was I managed to have diversity champions in the wings, in the wings. And we also had discussions with Black and Brown and international prisoners at that time. Very complex, all very complex. And I don't really wish to get too deeply into that.
Yes.
In essence, what I'm saying is I understand it. I've worked in a number of systems which had the same issue. That's a second example that I have referred to and have referred more in depth in my book, and what that meant for me as a woman, as a Black woman, and working within those systems. But quite right, I agree. There's something that the systems have learnt in terms of having to take a root and branch to the interventions of the diversity training and what that means and the impact on those who are at the receiving end. Thank
Okay,
you.
just one point. I've just checked that Macpherson report was released in 1999.
Beg
Uh,
your pardon.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to welcome Rashid, who I also believe has also read the book. Have you, Rashid?
I'm reading it right now, and
Read it right now. So you're one of the few. Good for your comment. And also, can we have your review
yeah,
on the book? It would be great for us to hear what you think.
yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, huge congratulations, Beverley, and
Mm.
thanks, Marcia, for putting this on and for your part in in helping the book come to life. And I'm kind of lucky. Sometimes you're very lucky when you happen to know the author and a little bit the journey behind the book. So first of all, just really well done, Beverley, on what is a really rich book. I'm a notoriously slow reader, but what I could tell already for the book, for those people who haven't read it, I love the fact it's one of those books that you could very easily just read and find yourself, just flowing through the book. It's
Yeah.
very well written. Not everyone can really write very, very well. It's a real skill to be able for it to flow in that way. But also you can just dip in and so on. I think that first of all, just a quick comment and then my question. I think what's struck me is how rich the book is. Being a male, what was great about the book is realizing immediately all the women I know who would find the book very, very valuable. So I quite like the fact, Beverley, that you've identified, yes, the book is for women and for black women and for women of color, but actually there are all of these other people who work in and around women, who know women and so on, for whom the book would be useful, where you could think, actually, hang on. And so that I know one person who's going to be getting this for a Christmas present. I've already thought of, for example. So I think it's really rich, and I love the way that you've traversed so many things that you put in here, your own journey, leadership, etc., etc. It's very, very, very powerful, and I do like that thing about that Northern lens. I think it's very important. I know you did a piece of work a while ago, a number of years ago during Black History Month, celebrating lots of those northern people of black heritage and global majority heritage, and the impact that they made into the UK. So thanks for doing that, and well done for that, because it's often missed out. The question I want to ask you is that what in the book, is there something in the book that you're most proud of, a moment in the book that you're most proud of? And is there anything that most surprised you when you read the book? But because writing a book there's all sorts of things going on. So is there something that you're most proud of when you kind of revisited it, either about the book or within the book or within your journey? And what surprised you most when you perhaps paused to reflect on it?
Well, great question, Rashid. When I first started the book, I started probably getting into an academic theoretical. So I was really writing in my head. And Marcia stopped me in my tracks and said, the reader needs to know who you are. What makes you feel credible to write about this book? Because I was starting to go into theories, frameworks, as you do as a researcher, as an academic, and not really dropping down into the heart. And I really had to get into the heart. And there's something in that book. I'm not really going to go much into detail about it, but what I will say is that I feel very proud of myself, because this is what I wrote, this aspect of my life in that book. I felt as though I'd reclaimed myself. There are aspects of my identity which I had probably hidden from myself, and I chose to write about it. And I felt very vulnerable writing about it. Marcia encouraged me to write about it. In fact, her words they're still ringing in my ears. Come on, Beverley, put your big girl's knickers on. So I put my big girl's knickers on.
Yes, remember
And
that.
I wrote about this aspect of my life, which I kept hidden. I'm going to talk about it. It's violence. So I was on the wrong end of violence, domestic violence. And I hid that from family, from friends. And I was working in the police service at the time. And the shame, I wrote about the shame. And as a child, I used to work voluntary at a domestic violence unit. And I could never understand certain elements of why people wouldn't tell the police or whoever. And here was I experiencing this. But here am I now, years later, sharing this. This is something that I have managed throughout my life and just hidden and got on with my life and felt very vulnerable. But actually, I'm proud of it, because I've chosen to, you could say, out myself and talk about this. As a leader, I am multifaceted. There are aspects that I have kept hidden behind the Superwoman cape. And also this element of reclaiming myself, where I was told by this partner of mine at the time, you're stupid, you're unintelligent, you're this, you're that. And I believed all that. So when I've heard stories and read stories about this, I was one. And even lying, going to the accident and emergency, when I was asked, how did this happen? And I said I fell downstairs, and I could see he didn't believe me. And there's been so many women who have done this, and I was doing it myself, the shame. But I chose to write about that, because if I didn't, this is not about me being a victim. This is part of me being a leader. This is part of me reclaiming myself. This is a part of me, possibly about why I have so much compassion and empathy for those who have been a victim, shall I say, a victim, who have been assaulted in many ways. So I have to say, whilst it is negative, and I'm not going down the deficit model, but writing that in the book and feeling really vulnerable, because God knows who's going to read this book. But I've hidden that for years, and now people are going to read that. What on earth are they going to think about me? But does it matter? I'm reclaiming myself, my narrative, and this is a season of reclaim. So in answer to your question, Rashid, that is what I'm most proud about, coming out about something that I've kept hidden for 30 years.
Very powerful, very, very powerful.
Beautiful.
Beautifully shared. And I
Put a
think
tear to my eye, Beverley. That memory. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
Rashid.
I'm just going to wrap up with thanks so much for sharing that, Beverley, because I think that that's powerful, because I think that so many Black women reading the book will know that there are all of these different dimensions, and you unpack it about strength, having this and that, and all of these contrasting things and challenges and from just so traumas and all of that. So good on you for writing this book that really is going to allow those women to see themselves, laugh, cry, reclaim themselves, and see somebody who's written something that from their own perspective. And as you say quite rightly, there are so many books that are from the other side of the pond, or even from the south. Your book, I think, will find many, many readers and many people who'll find a lot of solace and strength from your book. So huge
Thank you,
congratulations.
Rashid. I think what it enables me to do is, when I deliver a session or a coaching session or deliver training, I come from a lens of being trauma informed, not from just a lived experience, but studying it, and from working as a public governor in a mental health trust, and understanding and wanting to understand and read more about these things and the neuroscience and what those experiences can do to one's identity, how you reclaim yourself, and a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I believe are hidden, and people are walking around with Superwoman capes. But when you hit the menopause and the estrogen levels go down, that Superwoman cape is not going to save you. We've got to tap into something else, which is why I decided we need to really explore, which is why I became and studied and became a licensed menopause champion, to understand some of those things and how we can best manage, especially as Black women who have worn the Superwoman cape for so many years, and that cape's gone and the estrogen's gone. So what's going to save us? So that's why I wanted to get into this in this season of life, to help others, support, enable to have a soft life.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Rashid. Thank you so much. Thank you, Beverley. Really powerful. Do we have any other questions or comments for Beverley? Simone, you made a powerful comment in the chat. Let me just grab it. Okay, let me just find this. Shelley Allmark says, sharing lived experiences is a beautiful and powerful thing. Louise Joseph, thank you, Beverley, sharing your story. Congratulations on your achievements. A lot of your journey resonates. I was born and brought up in West Yorkshire and almost lost my accent when I moved to London to help my career progression, she says, in quotation marks. I know that Simone made a comment with regards to the McPherson report. Yes. So, yes, just when we were having that discussion with Navin and Beverly, Simone says, and I don't know if Simone's prepared to come on, even just to speak on audio, she's just said it's a covering indirect way of ducking the issue to claim it's obscure and you can avoid having to implement the McPherson findings. So those were her comments at that time.
Yeah.
Right, Beverly, I've got a question for you. If does anyone else have any questions, I've got a question around menopause. So surely, don't all women go through menopause? Why is there a particular emphasis on Black women and menopause? What is different?
Well, yes, all women go through menopause, but there's more than 30 different areas or experiences. Not everybody will have those experiences, and some will have all of them, and it can impact. But as I've mentioned briefly to Rashid, with a loss of estrogen, but prior to losing the estrogen and managing racism, systems of oppression, and a variety of things, the Black woman will have had, I'm going to be provocative here and say the Black or brown woman may have had different experiences or more challenging experiences than her white counterpart in many regards. So with the loss of estrogen, that means a lot of our protective system will have gone. And therefore, research tells us that the Black woman, the brown woman, is more predisposed to cardiovascular disease. It's a hidden killer: heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure.
Okay.
And I know, as somebody who's been a member of a gym since I was 18, 19, and consistently been a member of a gym and prided myself on fitness, with the loss of estrogen and visiting my own GP and being told about my high blood pressure, I began to study it more, which is why, as I mentioned, got into being a licensed menopause champion to understand. And the only thing that was holding me back was the stress of work. And that can have a direct impact when you're working in a system which is not geared for Black or brown women, and you are navigating those systems of oppression through policy or through conversations with colleagues, maybe that those challenges, your own protective barrier in so many ways, is no longer there. So there's a reliance there on grounding yourself, and also some of the foods, Marcia, that I could get away with in the past. I can no longer get away with that because the liver, the kidneys will no longer tolerate that because lots of hormones are missing. So with those layers and with those previous experiences felt by Black and brown women, and with a loss of hormones, then that can have a direct correlation. And our research tells us that. And also, I'm campaigning to get Black and brown women mentioned on the agenda. The NICE research by NICE on the menopause, there was a big campaign for Black women to be more involved in that. So the review of the NICE guide, Black women were not considered. A lot of the times, and now coming towards the end of my career, and that is at the policy end of NHS England, without speaking out of turn, but talking about policy. And we all know, with being educators, they are trained. It's only now we are seeing that they are trained on Black and brown skin.
Only now.
And we know historically, if we go back to slavery times, how gynecology testing, it was on the Black woman's slave without anesthetic.
Without anesthetic.
This concept of pain, and Black women don't feel pain. There's a whole lot of that. We can only have to look at research around the disproportionate deaths of Black women in maternity. We've seen that. You've seen the research, so there's no talking out of school with that. The research is there. And this is why I really want to focus and really get down into the lived experience, health and well-being, and for our sisters to have a good career wherever they're working towards the end, towards when they retire. I personally have some senior Black colleagues who's dropped dead in service, Black women colleagues who's just dropped dead in service. I am not a doctor. I can't say why, but what I will say is that those colleagues were going through menopause and had particularly high stressful jobs. That's all I can say to that.
Yeah.
But if we look at that and we look at the research and the high predominance of cardiovascular strokes, the silent killer, and blood pressure, it's time now to get into the soft life. And through this book, I've wrote various things and tips and research, and part of my soft life and being an independent coach, I'm also, as a licensed menopause champion, going round to groups and talking about menopause across the board in many ways to enable and support our sisters.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just a quick comment, and then we go on to Simone Smart. We have a comment from Elaine Foster Allen, who says, I rather like how you have dealt with your complex and layered life experiences. And then she goes on to say, I need to read the book. And this is Elaine Foster Allen, and she's in Jamaica. Is there anything that you have not covered in your book that you wish you had? So, is there a sequel? This is a question from Elaine Foster Allen. Elaine, where are you? Why can't we just hear your voice? Yes, Elaine.
You can. Good.
Okay, Elaine.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Ask the
I've
question
been enjoying
yourself.
I'm actually on the road in the car listening.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, thank you for your question. Yes, there are lots of things that I didn't put into the book, because in this first book I wanted to center on me, but there are other elements to this book. I could have gone on and on and on, and as you will see once you read the book, it is multifaceted, but there are elements of the book that I haven't delved in, and I've also wanted to protect people. Obviously,
Yes.
The police service, the prison service, it's been a number of years since I've left there, and I want to honour that as well. But there are other elements to me that I haven't put in terms of my leadership, my career, a whole host of things. But I'm hoping as a start of a term with the chapters of things, I'm hoping that will be useful, and that might spring onto other things, dependent on the feedback and what people would like to know. But yes, there's lots of things I haven't put in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. And then we have on camera, because I know Elaine's driving, and then we have Simone Smart on camera. Simone.
Hi, Simone.
Hi, Marcia. Hi, Beverley.
Hi.
Thank you. Marcia, earlier on when you mentioned my comments, I was multitasking. Sorry, so I couldn't come in there. First of all, Beverley, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have the pleasure of working with Marcia, and hopefully I'm about to publish my second book with her. So I know it's no mean feat to write a book. Just to come back on that comment that Marcia referred to about the police, or actually I think Naveen had asked the question about the police claiming they couldn't understand what the Macpherson report was about. I mean, my observation was simple, really. It is, in my mind, classic gaslighting tactics when you have no defense for justifying your actions. You do one of several things. You either claim that what the person's saying makes no sense, or is complete rubbish, has no foundation, what have you, or that you don't understand it. And then that way, clearly you don't have to answer for your actions. The other comment I wanted to quickly make, Beverley, I was so captivated by you reading excerpts from the book, the chapter, and all of that. And, my engagement with it was right there. But it's so interesting because when you went on to the vulnerability aspects, when Marcia pressed you to share about the domestic violence, I found that my ears just pricked up. And it's just something I think worth bearing in mind, that there's so much power in vulnerability. Vulnerability, unlike what a lot of people think, equates to victimhood. Actually, on the contrary, it's more about, how you've come through the trials and the tribulations, the mess that leads to your message, and the victory actually that comes out of that difficult period that you went through. I mean, obviously, it's quite sad that you did have to endure that, but you've come out of the other end, and well done to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone. In the book, I do talk about French and Raven did some research on power, and they highlighted these 6 aspects of power. And one of the many top tips in the book, I do talk about, I highlight 3. One is about recognizing your expert power. The other is about your referent power. And the other is about your recognizing your power of intention. And if you can harness those elements of power, then that for me is around reclaiming yourself. And what I felt I did, Simone, by outing myself and sharing that, I was reclaiming my power. Instead of holding that power with somebody else and keeping it hidden under my Superwoman cape, I reclaim my power, my expert power, my good enough power, my I don't need you to validate me power because I'm wearing an expensive diamond ring. Take the ring back. I'm claiming my power, which is worth millions and millions. So I do refer to the power of that. And many times in my research with Black women, brown women, they've often felt as though they don't have power. And they're in leadership roles, and they've referred to their version of power has been, it's the matron has got the power, or it's the chief superintendent who has the power, or it's somebody else who has the power. And actually, everybody has power. But if we go back to that research by French and Raven, who identifies the levels of power, we have that power, and it's about recognizing that and reclaiming that as part of your reclaiming your power and burning your Superwoman cape and rising from that and reclaiming yourself. So yeah, I've reclaimed my power, got my power back, and it feels good.
Good on you. That is powerful. And I think it was Marcia that put in there about it being so liberating. There's something so freeing, isn't there, about not having to walk around with this facade. I talk about that in my book, actually, swapping my face for a facade, feeling that you have to be a certain way around people in public. And once you realize that it's just better to be your authentic self, it's just such a liberating thing to do. So yeah.
Absolutely. I've just seen a message pop up from Toby, and Toby and I go back a long time. We worked in organisational development, and I'm just so delighted Toby's come online. Toby works for the King's Fund, and I'm delighted because we've worked together, and Toby joined one of my OD EDI classes. Oh my gosh, when was that? 2017, 18, Toby? And we go back a long time.
It was up in Bolton, and it was really moving for me.
Yeah. So Toby joined us in that, and we've just remained professional colleagues. He's a great ally of mine, and we check in at least once a year, twice a year, every 6 months. We just have a check-in on things. But Tommy, I really appreciate you being here.
What was Toby's comments? What was your comments?
I was just saying, because I need to go on now. Just saying how wonderful it is to be here. It's a real privilege, Beverley, and I'm so glad to have been here. Awesome.
Thanks, Toby. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Toby. And then we're going to just Naveen, a quick one, please. We have to get you guys. I have to get you guys together because you're both right about the issues. Carry on, Naveen.
Okay, just to expand on what you've already said in terms of the historical element of Black women and menopause. I've done quite a bit of reading on that. I'll just very quickly go through. There are a lot of stereotypes about Black women being too promiscuous. We don't want them having too many babies. We have all the issue about pain you mentioned. During childbirth, Black women, Asian women have not very good antenatal care. They don't always have proper care when they're delivering the baby. We had all this issue with Telford, Shrewsbury. Women are not believed. Black women have not been believed for at least 30, 40 years. So that's not new issue. But on the end of the day, we have issue here. Misogyny exists in medicine.
Yes.
Okay? Maternity care is one of them. It's all about reproduction, it's about women's bodies and all that. The significant misogyny is is in health. And the training doesn't address any of that. Just to make a quick point, all the problem I highlighted about black women and Asian women, I argue there's a lot of evidence to suggest that racism is a significant determinant of health. It affects stress. Stress affects all the hormones in the body, affects you where you sleep, you live, you read, you rest. It's there all the time. And stress is causing all these things like cardiovascular problems, diabetes, and all these things. So, in a nutshell, if you want to look after any women, you have to improve their life chances where they themselves are little kids.
Yes.
Black women don't have that. Asian women don't have that. So you have to fight all the time through employment, through walking to the shop, to everything else. So there are a lot of issues about impact of health due to direct result of racism.
Thank you. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you, Naveen. Beverley, any comment in response to Naveen?
Yeah, thank you very much. Really useful. I'm currently just ending out my career with NHS England and work at the policy end, supporting the 10-year health plan and looking at health disparities, and currently working with the Race Health Observatory and a variety of different things. And your studies are quite correct. As a licensed menopause champion, this is the type of work that we address. I've actually seen it and done my own research with our black and brown nurses. During COVID-19, I was tasked with undertaking a grassroots project in terms of a wide variety of that. But as I say, the book isn't all about institutional racism and all the negativity. I did start off by talking about the Northern Soul, the music, the joy and laughter of my family and community, the importance of that, which is why I developed the L.I.F.T framework and togetherness, leadership, identity, fulfilment. There's a lot of joy that I highlight in the book. So it's not all negative. So whilst this discussion may be around that, I do want to highlight there's lots of good elements.
I'm actually going to invite you to do a little reading for us after Carol. Welcome, Carol.
Hi.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
How are you?
Beverley, it's been great to be here, actually.
Just wonderful. Thank you.
So thank you, Marcy, for inviting me. You may not think about it, but I think you are right. And I like the Superwoman cape. I really do. And I think that we are, just like Naveen said, we're so misrepresented and misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I think as Black women, I know your book's not solely on that, but sometimes the answer can be found within if we know how to get that. Talking about even with menopause, there's alternatives, and I think you've got the platform for that. And a lot of women, we won't even think about natural herbs.
No.
And even if you do that in conjunction with your doctors and stuff like that, but they are so powerful. I think your book, I haven't read it and I'm looking forward to reading it because I have been empowered by you today. And I just think that because you have this platform, to share, one thing that we can't miss out is that we are slightly different. Our melanin is different. We can't be treated all the same. So we just can't. And one of the big things I think for us is the fact of the fibroids. So that comes onto your platform again. We don't have to wait for menopause. We've been struggling for some time. And, the fibroids, that's such a big thing in our society at the moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm a great advocate of natural products. And what I've become really eagle-eyed at certainly since the menopause, is looking at the ingredients of products and the oils that I use in my body, on my skin, even toothpaste, things like that, an impact on us, and things like that we've been using forever and ever. I also have a YouTube channel where I drop in things like that.
Good.
So yeah, I have a Rest, Rise and Reclaim YouTube channel where that's dedicated to my tips. But I always say to everybody, as a licensed menopause champion, I don't know your condition or your relationship with your health practitioner. So those are the things that need to be explored firstly. But there's lots of alternatives. I often think certainly my mother back then, and I'm sure a lot of other Black women back then, they probably managed menopause better, because when I think about the quality food my mother cooked, there was no rubbish in it. It was all fresh.
Yeah.
Corn-fed chicken where we pay a fortune for it now, or fish, or everything was soaked, hardly anything tinned, even black-eyed peas, kidney beans. Things was fresh, fresh, fresh. But now we have these things where they can live on your shelf for weeks and weeks and weeks. So there are ingredients in there that we've been consuming for a long time. So there's a lot to be said about going back to what my mother used to drink. Does anybody on here remember Nutriment?
Yes.
To have Nutriment. God knows what was in that thing, but we had to drink it. Nutriment. Yeah. Everything was in there. But when I think about it now, we would probably call it a green smoothie, although there was raw eggs in that stuff. But all that type of thing. So you're absolutely right. And that's why I'm a big advocate of going natural. My Caribbean lentil soup is something that I'm a big fan of. I've mentioned that on my YouTube channel. I think it was up to today, talking about batch cooking and Caribbean lentil soup. And the recipe, I didn't make the recipe. There's a Jamaican guy, and I found his recipe and I loved it. And it's just a, slow cooker, and then I batch cook it, freeze it, and it's got everything in. So I don't need to trouble myself and busy myself. I just put it in the slow cooker and it's there. Brilliant. So there's just something about
the name of your YouTube channel, Beverley?
Rest, Rise and Reclaim.
Right. So, Shelley, if you can find that, we can drop that in the chat. I think it's going to be, we need to have more sessions like this, or we need to follow Beverley on her YouTube channel. Carol, so thank you so much. They were excellent, excellent points. And I think we need to be connected to Beverley in order for us to explore. We've got comments. Rashid says, wonderful comments. Carol, magical. Elaine Foster Allen says, carrot juice is the thick one. Yeah. Simone says, yes, she suffered terribly with fibroids and endometriosis. Doctors couldn't help, so she uses natural remedies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simone has a beetroot also, Elaine said.
Yes, yeah, beetroot. I'm a big fan of beetroot, hemp seeds, lentils, chickpeas. Come off anything with rapeseed oil, forget about it.
No, that's
extra virgin olive oil, arugula, salad, tomatoes, all those things. Yes.
And we also have a comment. Gilroy, are you able to unmute, or shall I read your comment? Gilroy Brown, are you still there? Right, I have a comment from Gilroy Brown. Oh, yes, he is. Gilroy, just make your comments rather than me having to read it.
All right. Well, I'm having difficulty because I can't even get on my video, but I'm glad.
We just have your lovely voice. That would be great.
Found the whole thing fascinating, and thank you, Beverley, for an inspirational and powerful meeting that we've had here tonight. Good to hear my good sister Elaine as well. Foster Allen.
Elaine Foster, yes.
Yeah. No, just to say, as a powerful and inspirational.
Hi, Gilroy.
Tonight, and
thank you.
To say that you touched on the whole idea of not being validated by others, and we have to recognize and fully use the power that we already have in our hands.
Right. Yes.
Often, as a community, we're not using fully the power that we have because we've been conditioned to believe that validation comes from externally.
That's right.
Power and permission comes from those ones that like us.
Yes.
The system was never made for people like us.
Yes.
What was achieved in spite of the system. That's the truth, and that's what we should do young.
Yeah.
And finally, it's about embracing the YOU, your own uniqueness.
Yes.
And you summed that up perfectly in what you said today. And we just would need to pass it on to a younger generation to realize that that's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
your celebration of yourself, your value in yourself, and your own uniqueness.
Absolutely.
And the power that you've yet to unleash.
That's right. Claim back your power.
Amen.
Wonderful. Listen, thank you so much, Gilroy. We just had a comment from Naveen. He said, less sugar. I agree.
Yeah.
I've recently had to cut sugar almost all, it's not all the way out, but
sugar is the biggest killer. Sugar is the biggest killer. And if you even think about bread and you look at the ingredients, cut out the sugar.
Yeah.
Too much sugar is not good.
I agree. Beverley, two things I want, because we're getting towards the vote of thanks. We are coming up to the end, but I would love for you to read, as it's this time of year, I would love to read a bit from page 17, if you could read page 17 for us. And then if you'd like to give your vote of thanks, I can see that this has been a very, very rich conversation tonight. And we will be starting our online getting authors together. There's a lot of our authors. Actually, Beverley, there's a lot of the Marcia M authors on the call from all parts of the country, parts of the world tonight. And so once we get back into the new year, we're going to be having some regular discussions around all the topics that our books are about. But Beverley, I'm going to put you back on spotlight. If you could give us that reading, because it's that time of year, give us a flavour of your background, and then we do the vote of thanks, and then we can end. But I'm going to play, and I'll play your closing track as well at the end. All right, Beverley, over to you.
Thank you. So the anticipation of Christmas was tied as much to the food as to the festivities. One of the most iconic symbols of the season was a Jamaican Christmas cake, or black cake. My mother is an excellent cook and cake maker, and months before December, I would see a large glass jars tucked away in the cupboard, filled with a mysterious, dark, rich mixture of fruits, raisins, prunes, currants, and cherries, soaking in a potent bath of rum and red wine. The aroma was intoxicating, even as a child. It was a heady mix of sweetness and spice that hinted that Christmas and indulgence was to come. The jars were opened occasionally by my mother, who would add more rum to ensure the fruits remained deeply steeped, soft and bursting with flavour. Christmas dinner was also always the feast of Jamaican culinary pride, highlighting dishes steeped in heritage. The Christmas table was vibrant with options reflecting the richness of Jamaican culture. Alongside the Western staples like roast turkey or chicken, we also had callaloo, ackee and saltfish, fried dumpling, rice and peas, and sorrel drink, a tangy ruby red drink made from the petals of the sorrel plant, steeped with ginger, cloves, and cinnamon, and sweetened to taste. It was often laced with rum for the adults. I'll pause there.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And just your vote of thanks, your closing comments, please, Beverley.
So I just want to say thank you so much for everybody coming along this evening to support and lean into my why. And again, allow me to talk about myself. This book centers on myself, so to allow me to do that. But I really appreciate you coming in, and everybody. It's been a lovely experience. It's a nice way to end the year for me, and it's a culmination after all these years from thought to actually holding the book in my hand. It's wonderful. So I just want to say a special thank you to everybody for coming along, supporting me, asking me those questions, or reflective questions. Sometimes, as you'll know, authors, when you're deeply immersed in the book, you can't see the wood for the trees. So for other people to ask you those questions and thoughts, I deeply appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody on this call who's made the time to come and join me and celebrate this book. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Beverley. I just want to say to every people on the call, so we have been sharing a link to buy the book on Amazon. However, Beverley, do we want to offer that if people want to get a signed copy from you, if they email me, and then maybe we can organize for them to order and you send out signed copies? Is that possible for people who are on this launch? Because it'd be nice for them to have a signed copy directly from you once you get your stock.
Yeah, once I get my stock, yeah, that would be nice if I can do that, because I've already allocated a lot of that stock that's coming. here to people.
Let's see.
So.
We'll see how that goes. But if you do want a signed copy, what we can do is send you, you can email us info@marciampublishing.com.
Yes.
That's Shelley. And then we'll take it from there. It may not be everyone, but we'll see
Okay.
how we can go on.
Lovely.
Beverley, thank you. It's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's been really rich conversation. It's been rich, and it's these times it makes it's made it all worthwhile, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe this is the beginning because the book isn't released yet.
Yes.
And already I'm just experiencing the richness of thought and conversation that the book is evoking.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's do this. I'm excited. Thank you so much, Beverley. Powell,
Thank you.
a lady who is living her life like it's golden. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Well done, Beverley. Thanks, Marcia.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you, Marcia.
Bye, congrats.
Bye.
Bye.
Catch up with you all soon. Bye.